Hello everybody, my name is Average Election Enjoyer, and today is going to be a new type of video where I am going to be discussing topics in a sort of commentary. You feel free to disagree with what I say. If you want to leave a comment disagreeing or agreeing with what I say, or just want to talk with me in the comment section, feel free to do that. And in this video, I am going to be discussing the erosion of trust in our institutions, whether it be major news organizations, whether it be our elections, whether it be our government. It is the erosion of trust in all of those institutions and why that is a concern. Now, this is not a video that is set to discredit these movements that have occurred. There is always a place for not fully believing in what you see and believing in institutions. Of course, that is not what I am arguing in this video. That's because if you full-heartedly just believe that these institutions are always, like the news, if you full-heartedly believe in every last detail that the news gives you, then you are going to certainly be in for a rude awakening. However, this video is meant to really commentate on how if you lack any trust at all in any of these news organizations, that can immediately lead to misinformation, disinformation, you being taken advantage of by actors that you certainly don't want to be taken advantage of, because they're going to try to fill you with hate and fill you with misinformation that could be dangerous. That is what this commentary is going to be on. The reason that I, of course, named this video fake news, or at least that is the topic of this video, that's because it's not a dig on anyone who says that, and it's certainly not a commentary on whether the news is always right or whatever. It is simply my catch-all term and what you see as a catch-all term for things that people don't like. If you don't like something, it is fake news. If you don't believe in the elections, it's a fake election. You can have fake presidents. It is a very easy way to ignore information. It is a very easy way to ignore evidence. And that is a problem. If you only trust in a single person or a single group of people, and you are not looking at other angles, then that is a major problem. Historically, the reason why we see this sort of rise of this terminology of fake news, though it was most definitely inevitable, is because in the past, you didn't have the ability to just be able to have just all this information flying at you at once at your fingertips. In the past, you had to rely on information traveling by word of mouth and by horse and by carriage, and you had to trust what people said. And now that most definitely led people to be led astray, and there are a whole series of problems with that. However, there are more problems with what we have today. If I were to open up Twitter or X, I guess, right now, then if I just spent 5 minutes scrolling, I could probably find at least 10 posts that are just blatant misinformation or just meant to fool people. And it is a problem, because if you get so deep into this misinformation that you begin to tune out the news and the government and wherever other your sources of information are coming from that are usually pretty trusted, that if the news blatantly lied, they would be going to jail. That is just a fact. However, you cannot go to jail if you say something on X that is not true, or you post something on Instagram or the Blue Sky or whatever other social medias. You cannot get punished for spouting bullshit on those social media platforms. The news, however, if you blatantly lie, unless it's an opinion piece, again, that's just a part of media literacy. If you blatantly lie in a news article, and they are checking it, they have to check it, or else, as I'm about to say, if you are blatantly lying as a news source, then you get in big trouble. And that is just not something that is worth it to these companies. So if you're only getting your information off of social media, you're not reading articles or the newspaper or watching the news or listening to whoever, whatever, any of that sort of thing, then you are vulnerable, because people on social media don't care about being honest with you. They care about making money. And they make money by getting clicks, and they get clicks by they could lie about something happening. Just today I was just browsing, or I was looking at articles, and a fake article popped up that talked about how the U.S. shot down a helicopter. It was a clickbait title, and when you click on it, it gives you the factual information. This is what I'm talking about. So this video is definitely not saying that there's a lack of fake news. However, it is a commentary on fake news being a catch-all term to ignore these what once were trusted institutions. See, if whatever side you look on, if you're reading articles from Fox News or CNN, if you can get past the partisanship, then you'll see that it's all the same. So they both report on the incidents in a somewhat factual in a factual manner. That is why I always find it important to read articles from multiple different sources. If I'm looking at it, then I'll read a Fox News, I'll read a MSNBC, I'll read an NBC. I'll get all the perspectives, and that helps you sort of come out with the exact events. But if you read any of those articles on an event, then you'll have a general idea of what occurred. It'll be partisan, but it'll be generally true. If I went on Twitter or Instagram, then I could get some completely incorrect information. And that is a problem. Because if I didn't go and fact check that information, then now I believe something that is completely not true. And all it'll do is, if I go back and eventually see the news and see that they have something contrary to what I put, then that could further erode my trust in the institution, and that could lead me to believing in what I saw on social media more. And once you get hooked by social media, once you get drawn away from the more trusted institutions, then you're gone. Then you live in a different world. And that is a scary thing. Fake news, on either side, of course, leads to people living in a different world than you might. Like, that has never been really what's happened. Usually in this country, when you're debating politics or whatnot, everyone's on an equal playing field, and everyone's debating in the same world. But that is something that is not occurring anymore. Where you see it today. You see politicians saying factually incorrect things that you can easily go look up and research and find out that they are in fact just lying to you, just blatantly. However, they're oftentimes, though what they say is backed up by bullshit you see on social media. And then if you fall into that cycle, then, as I was saying, you become part of a different world than what is objectively true. And that's not an attack on any specific person. That is, of course, I see it as a problem. Doesn't mean you're a bad person if you, I guess, are into the social media and the such. But I would, if I'm talking about this and this sounds like you, I would encourage you to at least try to read some articles from what are conventionally thought of as trusted sources, because there is a lot more editing and scrutiny that goes into those sources than what you might see on social media or what your favorite politician has to say, because your favorite politician is not bound. Again, they're like social media. They're not bound to telling the truth. They can't get sued for misinformation. Like news organizations can. Fox News is classified as entertainment, and they still got lawsuits for stuff they were saying. And sometimes people can get punished. A good example is Alex Jones getting sued into oblivion for his comments on Sandy Hook. But that is the exception and not the rule. These social media figures, these politicians, they have an incentive to lie to you. The news, trusted institutions that you see, again, they're biased, of course. They're going to hit you with rhetoric on either side, whatever side the news leans, but they can't openly lie to you about the facts in the way that these politicians or that these social media icons or that random account you saw on TikTok can and get away with. So I think this fake news epidemic is really because people they're very against these institutions that do have in fact checks on them that could lead to them getting in trouble for saying these things, and instead turning towards what they want to hear. And this is on both sides, because I've seen election denialism on from Democrats in 2024 and as you know, there's an incident of electional denialism in 2020, and even in 2012 was when it really started. With Obama's second election. But you see the rise of this misinformation, of this fake news, and also the mischaracterization of places you really should be taking your information from as fake news. Because if you can learn anything from 1984 and what 1984 rings as true in today's society, is that if you control the narrative, then you control the debate, and there's nothing that you can do to change somebody's mind. You can come in with studies and whatever you want to argue with, but if the person you're talking to just doesn't believe in any of that and just believes what their favorite politician or influencer says on social media, then they're never going to hear you out. And that is a problem. That is most certainly a problem. Never before in America have we had two different views of the world, not even two, multiple different views of the world. You can hear of an event, and if you go on social media versus if you read articles from, say, if you read an article from NBC, Fox News, and choose another, the New York Times, you'll get a general view of what happened. You go on social media, completely different. And that is terrifying. That is terrifying to see, because these people are now living in a world that is objectively incorrect. That is objectively not what occurred. And that is, of course, a problem. because you can't have any sort of discourse or come to any sort of agreements. This polarization in American politics is never going to end unless people begin to believe in these institutions that we have. Major change needs to occur because both sides of the aisle are in just you'll see it a lot when people will be debating on whatever political topic, and they'll just be arguing two completely different things. You'll hear two completely different counterpoints with both of them just having two different views of the world, and you're never going to be able to come to an agreement because the worlds are just different. The facts are different in each of their minds, and that is a problem. So if you're going to take away one thing from this video, if you're still here, I'd like to thank you for listening to this sort of rambling video. Please just don't listen to one individual person or one individual corporation, one individual social media account. Please just, it doesn't matter. If you're a liberal, read that Fox News article. If you're conservative, then just see what they're saying on CNN. You don't have to like it. You don't have to ignore the partisanship. But if you get stuck in a single worldview, then things are just going to keep on getting worse. And that is just, not going to help anybody. It really isn't. It's just going to lead to major fractures in this country. And that would most certainly be a tragedy. So, on that note, I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video. A video on today's special elections will be out either tonight or tomorrow once the results have been finalized. So you can look forward to that. And I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.